All right, guys, welcome back to another episode of The Potential Project. I'm your host, Sean Calhoun, and if you're here, it's because you're ready to reduce stress, burn stubborn fat, and get your body working with you instead of against you. On this podcast, we're all about simple, no BS strategies for fitness, nutrition, and lifestyle. This way, you can feel strong, confident, and in control. I'll give you the tools, mindset shifts, and habits to help you look and feel your best without spending hours in the gym or stressing over every single meal. Now, let's get into it. All right, welcome back. Now, on this week's episode, we're going to be talking a little bit about progress and goal setting and what just might be holding you back from getting there. Now, if you've been frustrated in the past with not being able to achieve your goals, or you make a little bit of progress and then fall back to square one, this episode is for you. And what I've learned is that real progress is much easier than you think, but it also takes much longer than you think. It takes more effort, it takes more time. And what I mean by easier is not that it is some like la-di-da, you just show up and things come into your life. It is challenging, but it is simple. So it's easier than you think, but it's going to take longer than you think. And we're going to base this conversation off of that idea and break it down into little parts so that you can leave today with some actionable steps and the knowledge and embodiment of what to do going forward. So I understand where you're coming from because I'm a human as well. And I just want to make you know that I understand you want results fast. In life, whether it's improving our health, making more money, finding the love of our lives, wherever you're at and whatever goals you may have, we want them yesterday. Rightfully so, because we're looking for the feeling that we think it's going to give us. We think it's going to make us feel more content, more happy, get more joy out of life. Because when we boil down our goals and aspirations, we're not looking for a physical, tangible thing. We're searching for what we think that thing is going to give us. For example, if you say you want to get a raise in your job, it's not the raise that you want. Right? And then you might say, well, it's the money so that I can, support my family more. Well, what does supporting your family for mean? Well, then I can take them on a vacation to somewhere warm when it's cold out. Okay, why do you want to do that? Well, because, we don't like the cold and my family really enjoys going into warm weather to the beach and it makes them happy. Well, what about making them happy is important to you? Well, it fills my soul. It makes me feel like I'm providing for my family, and I love to see the joy in my kids' eyes. And you start going down that rabbit hole and you realize it's not the raise that you want. It's not the car. It's not the person. It's the feeling that you believe that thing or person or event will give to you. So enough on that tangent. I just wanted to clear that up because what you're working so hard for, if you don't understand why that really is, then it's super hard to get there. So I just want you to know you're normal for wanting things yesterday and wanting things fast. And you're also normal for getting discouraged when things don't work out on your timeline. You see, we were taught growing up to put an end date on something or else we'll never do it. And there's validity to that. And in certain circumstances, it's super, super important to set, all right, I need to get this done by that time. But what happens is you have this made up timeline for some arbitrary goal that you think needs to be put in place. So let me give you an example. Let's say you want to lose weight and you say, I want to lose 40 pounds in 6 months, right? That's a reasonable thing that you could do if you really work hard. But the point is, why does it need to be 6 months? Why can't it be 7 or 8? I'm not saying that to get you off the hook and to do less work, but when it comes to something like that, you don't really know exactly how long it's going to take you because your body is a chemical masterpiece, not just some math equation. But when it comes to things like work, where maybe your boss is like, hey, I need you to do a summary report on that, that survey that we took out and I need it to my desk by Friday. I don't even know if that scenario happens, but let's just say it does. That's a more reasonable thing to put a timeline on. So when I say timelines aren't as important, they are, but in certain circumstances. If you say I want to boost my energy and, feel great in the mornings, you can't say I need to do that by this Friday. That's just unreasonable, right? You can take actions on it. But so when we're talking about timelines, that's more like work-based, money-based, business-based, things like that. I want to schedule a meeting with this person. I want to do it by the end of the month. You can put timelines on that. But when it comes to your health, it's super hard to put an exact date on it on when you want the desired outcome. Now, another way to detach from that is to put your dates and your goals according to your actions. That is something that you can control. So you're normal for feeling discouraged when things don't move on your timeline, but just notice the shift. Whoa, voice broke there. Just notice the shift between putting a timeline on your arbitrary goal and desired outcome and putting a timeline on the actions that you take. Big difference there. Now, this right here, when that happens, when you're discouraged and you want results fast, that's when people quit. They give up or they pivot to something else. I'm going to try this other diet. I'm going to try this other workout plan. And, they just totally switch up, or they're doing well, but things don't happen on their quote unquote timeline. So they start to slip on the habits that are actually working. The point I'm trying to make here, and that we'll talk about, is those habits are working in silence, and they're not just showing up every day with huge wins, but they have to build consistently. So you abandon those good habits because you just feel like they're not working. So, this whole conversation we're going to have today is just basically about how progress actually works and why patience combined with self-trust is the equation that you need to give yourself an advantage in life. So, let's get back to the initial thing that I said, right? The initial thing that I said was, it is easier than you think. And why might that be true? It's because progress in life and in your health goals doesn't require massive action. Now, this is something that I had to relearn and break a limiting belief for myself, because if you're someone like me who's interested in personal development and you go to the seminars and read the books, a lot of them will say, take massive action. Now, I think what they mean by that can be a little misconfigured towards how we're taking it in your head. At least it was for me. So progress doesn't require massive action. And what do I mean by that is that when you take small steps towards your progress, but do them imperfectly and immediately, that is what all of the gurus and the self-help people talk about when they say massive action. It means I am scared to open this business. I am scared to embark in this new fitness journey, but I'm going to do it anyway. That is a massive action for you, because you're going from not doing anything similar to that to creating inertia and momentum in your life to make that one small step forward. That's what they mean by massive action. I thought it meant something different, and maybe you do too, and maybe you did too in the past. But when you heard massive action, I thought it meant like we have to take these like grandiose effort steps. We have to be perfect with our actions. Like, for example, if your goal is to lose weight or something and you don't work out right now, it's like a massive action would be, I'm going to work out 7 days a week, no days off. I need to move my body. That is the wrong mindset. Same thought process is, I'm going to take massive action, but instead I'm going to go 1 day a week. That is massive action, because you went from nothing to something. You're changing your original thought patterns and habits throughout your and improving them by taking massive immediate action towards the goal you have. Now, the biggest change and the most momentum you can build is from keeping small promises to yourself. Now, I know I talk about this a lot, but it's worth repeating and it's worth understanding at a deep core level, because this is something that I've heard from people for a long time, but until you practice it, it doesn't really click in. So when you show up consistently for yourself, even imperfectly, right? Like you're taking those massive action steps forward. And again, when I say massive action, I just mean taking action, right? Let's just say taking action imperfectly towards your goal in that direction. When you do that, you're proving to yourself that you are someone who is worthy of progressing, of moving towards that goal, rather than making an excuse, not taking the action, and then having to mentally argue with yourself for a day, for weeks, for months, or years of why you didn't take that action. And that right there is the term called karmic debt. You are wasting time battling with yourself in your head over the action that you know you should have taken, but instead that massive action could have just been going to the gym once a week, right? That is a huge difference. It might seem so insurmountable, but you taking action to go work out or walk one day a week rather than saying I'm going to do 7. You're going to do 1, and you did that. That builds confidence, that builds clarity, and that allows you to adjust from what you did and make improvements over time. Versus you're like, massive action, I need to go 7 days a week. And then on Monday, you don't go at all. And now you're spending time in your head beating yourself up. Why didn't you just go? You should have done that. Oh my gosh, that was so easy. You could have just went. And all that time spent in that negative loop, that conversation that I know you have, and you might not share with anybody, that's wasted time. So I'm urging you, right? It's small, immediate, imperfect actions. Now, something that popped up for me, because guess what? Even though I'm the one sharing about this, I deal with it every day. And I wouldn't be sharing it with you if I didn't deal with it or go through it myself. Now, something that happened with me a couple days ago was my workout. I told myself that I was going to lift. Now, I have it on my standards that I move my body every day. That might not be where you're at right now, and that's okay. But where I've built my standards towards my health is that I move my body every day. That doesn't mean a super hard workout. That doesn't mean anything like crippling. That just means I could go for a walk, I could stretch, I could sweat a little bit. And on this particular day, I hadn't done that yet. So at first, I was having that conversation and saying, man, all the excuses. I don't have the time. We're about to go somewhere. I did a good workout yesterday, right? Like all that stuff started popping up into my head. And then I said, you know what? Stop. I caught myself in the act of settling with that lesser than voice. And I went to my basement and I did a 20-minute workout. Now, I have a bench and a few dumbbells in my basement, so it wasn't some elaborate thing. I did 4 movements for 8 reps each, and I did them as many rounds as I could within 20 minutes. Now, again, here's the point that I'm trying to bring across. It's not that this was the best workout ever. It's not that it was an hour long or that it was done with a trainer or anything like that. It is the fact that I chose to not listen to those negative thoughts in my head. I took immediate action to go downstairs and to move my body in a way that was fueling for me. And then when I was done, I was so much more at ease and confident in myself that I held my word. That is the biggest key. When you start holding your word to yourself with these small daily commitments, you build such unshakable belief in yourself that it will allow you to snowball that into larger things. And guess what? You create standards for yourself that are your new floor. So no longer, like let's take it back to that workout analogy of going once a week. If you went from nothing, no working out at all, to moving your body and exercising 1 day a week, you do that for long enough, that becomes your baseline. So now 1 day a week is your new zero. That's your new floor. And you can build upon that. And that's what happens when you do things imperfectly over time. Now, I want to reframe here a little bit. The work that we're doing to become our best selves, to improve your health, to improve your energy, your weight, your mood, all of those things. The work isn't hard because it's complicated, right? There's not some like elaborate plan that needs to be put in place. The work is hard because it requires your honesty and your consistency. And that's sometimes a hard pill to swallow because you as a human who have the ability to think and take action in your own accord can achieve anything that you would like, anything that you can imagine, you can achieve it. But it's hard because it requires you being honest with that conversation that you're having in your head and choosing that greater voice over the other one more times than not, right? So the consistency of you blocking out the noise, the excuses, and taking those small actions, you need to do that more times than you listen to the excuses and don't take the action, right? That is why it's hard, not because it's some complex plan. And that's the big secret that all the marketers on Instagram that are trying to sell you their program don't want you to know, because they want to tell you that doing this specific diet is going to help you finally achieve your goals. And doing this specific workout routine is finally going to allow you to achieve your results. They might be having some good intention, and maybe their program does work. But what they don't want you to know is that it doesn't take their crazy program or their insane diet to achieve the results that you want. It takes you becoming real with yourself and actually taking those small actions on a consistent basis, even when you don't feel like it. So the next part I wanted to talk about is why it takes longer to achieve the result you're looking for than you think. And this is why we can't put a specific date on the outcome we're trying to achieve with our health, but you can put a specific date on the actions that you're taking. Now, we live in a world with social media and Amazon and phone calls where we can get instantaneous results. I could put a post up and have someone comment on it immediately, or get likes, or have someone reach out to me to work with me. That can happen right away. I can order something on Amazon on my phone and it could be here today or the next day. You know, I could call someone, a relative or a friend who lives across the country, and immediately talk to them on the phone. We live in this society where we don't even think about that stuff and we just accept it as truth. Hey, hope you're loving the episode so far. Thanks for spending some time with me. I got a quick favor to ask. Make sure you're subscribed to the podcast because that's how I know you're getting value from the show. And this way, you never miss an episode. All right, now back to the show. So therefore, we think that the goals and the outcomes we'd want for our own life work the same way, right? We want to boost our energy. We want to lose a few pounds. We want to build some strength. It cannot happen that fast. Your body does not work that way. Results take time, right? So the annoying part about this is that your growth is compounding quietly behind the scenes before it ever comes visible, right? You're working on those things. You're taking the actions, the habits, the mindset, and you're doing it, and it's building in quiet underneath the surface. And so you can't see the results yet, and that's why you might want to pivot or slack on those things or just quit all completely, right? And a lot of people will underestimate how long it really takes to rewire your identity. And that's what we're really talking about here, right? You know, when people say it's all about your habits, it's all about this, it's really all about the habits that build your standards, that build your identity. And then you show up as someone who X, Y, and Z, who does all those things as their baseline. That's what identity really means. It's that you show up in the world with habits, a mindset, and actions that are so high, but yet to everyone else they seem so high, but to you they're your baseline. You wouldn't dare think about going a day without moving your body or stretching or eating whole foods or doing the necessary things. Like, that is your floor, whereas other people, it is their ceiling. They couldn't even imagine living like that. But you've built up your identity so much that it's now your new normal and your floor. Now, that's why it takes a while, right? You have to build those things over time. And all of those things take internal change in your mindset. It takes someone waking up every day and having that conversation with themselves and listening to the two voices and choosing the higher power, the higher version of themselves more times than not. And when you do that day in and day out over years, you're going to begin to win. You're going to see progress and you're going to achieve your results. Another metaphor that I hear a lot, and I'm not going to say this from experience because I'm not a farmer, but is the Japanese bamboo tree. And I apologize if you know this metaphor verbatim. I'm not going to try to repeat it, but the concept goes like this. You plant the seed for the Japanese or Chinese bamboo tree, and it's under the ground. And you need to water it and fertilize it and cultivate it for years. And they say something like nothing happens for 5 years. And then it sprouts up, and within like a couple months, it's this enormous tree. And that's what's happening with your goals. So you're building progress, you're taking action, you're building your mindset, your consistency, your habits and your standards under the ground. You can't see it yet. It's happening internally, it's happening with your mindset. Things are shifting. But if you do not allow yourself to improve upon those and take action when you don't feel like it, and to keep showing up for yourself and motivating yourself internally and listening to that voice, you are not going to allow yourself to reap the rewards of all of that work. So imagine the seed, right? We planted the seed for the bamboo tree and we watered it a little bit and we tilled the soil. We did whatever you need to do. Again, I'm not a farmer. I don't plant things. But you did all of those things. And let's say it took 5 years for that to grow roots and to become a strong foundation and then spark through the ground. But yet, on year 4, You were just like, this seed's done. You know what? It's dead down there. It's not worth it. We're going to stop watering it. And then it truly does die. And you'll never be able to see what came out of the ground and what became your huge bamboo tree. Now, I'm using that analogy. Again, you can apply it to your life and understand that it is not about getting quick results. It is about proving to yourself that you are the person that does what they say. And that is the real joy in this entire journey. Now, you may have heard the phrase, the joy is in the journey. True confidence comes from self-trust. Like, we've heard these things before, but here's why it's so important. And we've kind of been alluding to this the whole episode, is that keeping your word to yourself builds momentum, right? So even when the results aren't immediate, but yet you kept your word, it keeps you in that state of good energy, positive thoughts, continual action, and you need to continue that momentum. That's why momentum in life and towards your habits and goals is one of the biggest keys, and you need to protect that with all that you can do, right? So back to the workout analogy. Again, not all of you don't work out. I'm sure a lot of you listening to this already are in an exercise routine, but for the simplicity of the example, the person who doesn't work out at all and needs to work out one time a week, and they start doing that. They do it 1 week, they do it the next week, they do it for 6 weeks in a row. And then they look back and they're like, whoa, okay, this really feels good. Like, I enjoy going to the gym. I thought it was going to be annoying. I thought this time wasn't going to work. I thought I was going to need an hour and a half to work out, but I'm doing 40-minute workouts before work, and they're great for me. And I feel good, and I'm sweating, and I'm building strength. But what you're building even deeper than that is the confidence in yourself that you can do it. So a couple things will happen. You're either going to be so motivated and so ingrained into that routine that will continue on for long months and months afterwards, or you're going to build up enough confidence to then go 2 days a week. It's like, my body feels good now. I'm no longer super sore. This schedule works for me. I'm going to go a second day of the week. And then you repeat that process. It's a little new at first. Your body's a little bit more sore, but you keep doing it anyway because guess what? You told yourself the first time that it was going to be hard, and you did it anyway. So you build that momentum up, and you're creating such a powerful ball of positive energy and momentum in your life that it becomes an unstoppable force unless you let it stop, right? And that's why, we need to continue those things even prior to the success coming to surface and showing up as a physical reality in your life. And this is where, again, the joy actually lies, because back to what I said in the beginning, you think that by achieving a certain state of health, by buying a new car, by getting that raise, that's what you're looking for. You're looking for the feeling that it'll give you. And when you boil that down, it's a sense of contentment. It's a sense of bliss, of joy, of happiness. And I'll tell you a trick is that when you listen to yourself and take those small actions, like the person who went to the gym once a week and didn't let themselves down, you achieve the same thing that you're looking for in the first place. You have a sense of calm, of confidence, of joy, of bliss, because you told yourself you were going to the gym and you did it anyway. And this right here is the big key. Because you may have heard this before, is that you need to show up as the person you want to be before you actually attain the goal. So if you want to be vital and have energy and be at a certain weight, you need to understand how that person would show up in the world. And by doing those small commitments to yourself over and over again and building that confidence, you get to show up to them as them before the material manifestation of that goal actually happens. And that's the secret, is because when you do that long enough, it doesn't matter the timeline because it's guaranteed to happen. You will eventually start to lose the weight. You will eventually improve your energy. And you're going to continue to enjoy the process and to stack those habits and create a higher baseline for yourself because you're going to be feeling so good while you're doing it. And once we realize that, it may click for you that this is what they mean when they say the joy is in the journey. The joy isn't in, man, today's cold out. It's another day. I haven't lost any weight. I'm still weighing out my food. I'm making this grilled chicken. There's no joy in that, but the joy is you're still doing it anyway, regardless of how you feel, that's where we receive that joy and that feeling that we're searching for miles away, right? We think when we finally lose the weight, we're going to be happy, fulfilled. But if you don't take acknowledgement over, persevering through discomfort and doing those small habits anyway, if we can tune into ourselves and be aware, that feeling, that's what we're looking for anyway. So as you get addicted to that and you're searching for that feeling on a daily basis, you're going to be more consistent. You're going to take more action towards your goal, and eventually you will see the result. And that's why we need to let go of timing, right? Again, I said in the beginning, timing doesn't matter for the outcome. Timing only matters towards your action. So if you say to yourself, I'm going to, walk 3 times by Friday. Well, that's up to you. You have to schedule it in. You have to make it happen. You're not saying, I'm going to lose 3 pounds by Friday, because that's totally out of your control, right? What happens inside your body is your body's biology. But what you can take action on is what you're eating, how you're moving your body, who you're listening to, what your thoughts are, right? You have control over that. So when we shift our mindset with timing away from the outcome that we're desiring and then put it into the actions that we're taking, everything changes. You take back complete control of your life, right? It makes consistency easier. It releases tension from your nervous system, and it puts you back in the driver's seat of your life, right? So success with your health and really in everything in life, it's all about alignment with your higher self, following the journey, taking that action towards those small steps, and not in super overwhelming control over everything, right? Like I said, like saying I need to do 7 workouts a week and I need to drink a gallon of water a day and do all this crazy stuff. That's you trying to control the outcome. That's you saying I'm going to lose 50 pounds by next year. You don't know how that's going to work. So you saying that and setting your expectations that that's going to happen, you're just going to be frustrated if you don't do it. But instead, you're in alignment with the movements, the steps, the habits that you need to take going forward, even if it's imperfect. That's when you take back control. And that's where you achieve success, even before the material or physical thing happens in your life. Now, the paradox of time and why this kind of stinks is that time it's kind of fake, right? It's kind of like how we perceive it. And when you're in the middle of your growth and you're working towards something, it feels super slow. It feels like time is dragging on. Why can't I just get there? And then when you look back, it feels fast, right? And I kind of want to close with this last concept to kind of wrap this whole thing up, is because you're struggling right now, or maybe you're suffering, but that suffering is a choice. Struggling is part of the progress, part of the process. And it feels slow right now that you're not where you want to be in life. But then one day, if you continue on, you will achieve it. And you're going to look back and say, oh my gosh, that flew by. Take COVID for an example. We're in the middle of it years ago, and we don't know what to expect. We don't know when the masks are going to leave. We don't know when things are going to change, right? So we feel nervous about it. It feels like that took a long time. But now we look back and we laugh and we say, oh my gosh, I can't believe we did X, Y, and Z. I can't believe that situation happened. And we can only look at life that way in hindsight, right? Because life only makes sense in hindsight as we look back to connect the dots. So what I'm asking you is that in your life right now, if you were to go ahead in your life, what would you regret not starting? Like, is there a goal you have? Is there a business you want to start? Is there a habit that you know is going to benefit you, but you won't start it because of all of the excuses? What would you regret not starting if you go ahead 5 years and you look back and you say, man, I really wish I would have done that? I urge you to think about that, and that's going to give you a good idea of the steps that you should start taking today. Because if you're delaying something, just know the time is going to pass anyway. There will be a time 5 years from now where you look back and you say, man, that wasn't that long ago. If I would have just, and then you fill in the blank, done that thing, I would be here. If I would have just taken that one small step, if I would have just gone to the gym once a week and done that over and over again, by now, I would have been the person who goes 5 times a week without even thinking. And that's what we're so scared to admit, is that we want the results now. But if you look ahead 5 years, the person who went to the gym once a week and did that for literally a whole year, let's say, they just did 1 time a week, but they did it consistently and felt good about it. In 5 years' time, they're going to be the person who feels great, goes to the gym probably 5 times a week, doesn't even think about it, has the body of their dreams, the health of their dreams, and they're looking back and saying, wow, what a time, that flew. I feel great now. But instead, you look back 5 years and you're like, oh my gosh, I didn't do anything about that. I'm 50 pounds heavier than I was. My joints hurt. My body aches. I'm on 3 medications. I don't want that for you. So I urge you, time is now. Taking those small steps will put you on the path of success, of empowerment, of motivation, because the success comes when you commit to yourself and you take those small action steps on a daily basis. I believe in you. If this message resonated with you, share it with a friend, reach out to me with questions, and I look forward to talking with you next week. Hey, thanks for spending some time with me on today's episode. I hope you got a ton of value from it. If we're not connected on Instagram yet, let's change that. Hit me up at Sean Calhoun _. That's SEAN Calhoun _. Shoot me a DM. Let me know what you think of the show, or if you got any questions about how to level up your health. I'd love to hear from you. Thanks for tuning in. I'll see you on the next episode.